It is time for FYI, and we appreciate Andy Sokolovich for coming in to talk about Grow Clinton. Andy, thanks so much for being in here today.
Thank you so much for having me. You know, when I first walked in the studio, I was greeted by your front desk receptionist there, also known as
Crosby,
the cat. Yeah, so the bottom of my pants now has a little bit of Crosby on it, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, all the chairs around here as well. Before we get into, and I appreciate the talking points that you brought me, it has been quite a journey for Andy Sokolovich when you first came to our town. Talk a little bit about that.
So I moved to Clinton in 2013. That was following 12 successful years serving in the United States Air Force as an air traffic controller. I got to the community with a last name like Sokolovich. Everybody said, "Who are you? Who's your grandpa? Who's your dad? How are you related to anybody around Clinton?" And the reality was I wasn't. So I just moved to the community, and I was quickly embraced by a core group of community influencers that kind of showed me the way. I started a small business in Clinton called Bent Business Marketing and Advertising, where I used to do radio spots. You may have heard my voice on KROS several times. And then from that, I eventually was offered a job with the Clinton Regional Development Corporation in economic development, and that was in 2016. And here I am today in 2022 as your president and CEO of Grow Clinton.
Let's talk a little bit about the development of Grow Clinton. You've talked about this in the past, but it just seemed to be a natural thing.
Yeah, Grow Clinton is a merger of the Clinton Area Chamber of Commerce, the Clinton Regional Development Corporation, and the Clinton Convention and Visitors Bureau. The reality is, as we're speaking today, I will give kudos to Andy Green from the United Way in Clinton County. He is hosting a nonprofit summit that's out at the Sawmill Museum on the north end here of Clinton. But we realized that, the philanthropic pool around the community was kind of getting shallow, and we were competing against the Clinton Area Chamber of Commerce for investment dollars. Clinton Convention and Visitors Bureau was outside soliciting investment in their organization and sponsorship for their events, and it just made sense to combine our efforts. We were all working towards the same goal. So rather than being competitive in nature, let's just put everything in one bucket and see what happens. So in March of this year, we officially combined those organizations to create what is now known as Grow Clinton, a 501c6 nonprofit.
And you just recently, last Tuesday, had your annual meeting. How did that go?
That went well, Gary, despite, I know you can't control the weather as much as I wish you could, but it was 99 degrees, borderline 100% humidity. We had it out at the Nelson Cord Field, home of the Lumber Kings here in Clinton. We had over 200 people in attendance, and we really just talked about the power of partnership and progress. I mean, as I said earlier, we partner with the Chamber of Commerce, we partner with the Clinton Convention and Visitors Bureau, but partnership is going to be key to our success. And that really was the statement and the message that we shared during that annual meeting. And then, of course, we had the Wild Oats band play at our annual meeting, and I love the lead singer because I'm married to her. So.
I was going to say, how did you happen to get that band?
Yeah, Andy? That was an easy one to select, but they did a phenomenal job despite the temperatures that were outside, so we had a great annual meeting.
So now, annual meeting, you've got the board of directors in place, so everything's ready to go full force.
Board of directors are in place, a very select group of influential, inspirational, motivated volunteers that I'm excited to work for.
Okay, and you do work for them.
I do. That's a nonprofit organization. When everybody says, I work for a nonprofit, and they say, who's your boss? You're like, well, I have, for me, I have 16 of them. So, but that is greatly reduced from where we used to be. There was a time when I worked for the Clinton Regional Development Corporation where we had 40 plus directors on our board of directors. Reduced that down to 20-something, and now we're sitting at approximately 11 directors and then 5 ex officios.
Okay, so you have those 16. How often do they get together, and how often do you have to report to them?
We just met yesterday for our first meeting of the new board of directors. I report to them monthly, but I will say we stay in communication all the time. Okay. It's very important for any nonprofit leader to have a supportive board of directors that you can just use somewhat as a sounding board. And whenever I bump into a situation that I've never dealt with, which in my first couple of months of leadership in the organization has been several, they've been great in responding with their insights and their feedback.
So now, is there like a president, a vice president, secretary, treasurer? How does that break down?
That's it. You got it right there. Okay. We have the chairman of our board, or chairperson, is Paula Stewart from Alliant Energy. Okay. Vice chair is Stephen Clements, president of Citizens First Bank. We have our secretary, who is Matt Parbs, the director of the Solomon Museum. Treasurer is Brig Tubbs, president of First Central State Bank. And then we have somebody probably that I'm missing, but that seems to be our core group of officers moving forward. And it's been amazing. And all of them have jumped at the opportunity to serve in an officer role.
Some heavy hitters there. And you know what's interesting about it, of course, Brig is from DeWitt, but the family, bankers in this area. Yep. Then you've got Steve Clements, who's from Comanche, who's doing a great job with Citizens First Bank. And Matt Parbs, like yourself, like Matt Brooks, coming into our community and embracing Clinton.
Yeah. You know what, Gary? There is no utopia. And I think Matt Brook would probably say the same thing. And I'm sure Matt Parbs would say the same thing. We've all lived all over the place. The United States military moved me around several times. And I have yet to be somewhere where somebody said, I love the amount of potholes we have. We have the perfect property taxes, right? Everywhere you go, there's a short list of things that people complain about. But when I moved to Clinton, in the greater Clinton region, I fell in love with the community. And it's that passion that's kind of driven me to continue to be very supportive of our efforts moving forward, and ultimately led to me receiving this position. So again, this is my home. This is where I'm raising my kids, and I'm excited to be here.
Again, Andy Sokolovich of Grow Clinton. Let's get into the program now. Recertification of the Lincoln Way Industrial Rail and Air Park.
So the Lincoln Way Industrial Rail and Air Park is a 345-acre industrial park just to the west of our town. Actually, if you look at it on the map, it's directly between Lowmore and Comanche, but it actually, property lines dip down, and it's within the boundary of the city of Clinton. That is a property that we've been marketing for several years now. Recently, Grow Clinton has taken responsibility to market that park. The certification process is through the Iowa Economic Development Authority. And really what that means, Gary, is I could probably tell you where the squirrels bury the nuts in 345 acres. We put so much effort into doing studies and due diligence and mapping as a requirement to receive that certification. But that certification only lasts for 5 years. So every 5 years, we need to go back to the trough. We need to find not only the efforts of those individuals who are actually going to do the studies and the mapping, but also the funds to support the costs associated with those studies and the mappings and the due diligence. And recently we received a $32,000 grant from the Clinton County Development Association to offset our costs associated with recertification. What does that mean to be recertified? Well, it simply means that we're setting ourselves apart from the competition, and our site is what I consider to be development ready. If a prospect comes in and wants to put a business there, they don't need to invest in the studies themselves. They don't need to do due diligence. We've already done it for them. So we can put forth a package that is comprehensive, enlightening, and jam-packed full of facts and figures.
What do we have out there right now, Andy?
So currently out there is Rail One. That is a industry that manufactures concrete rail ties in partnership with the Union Pacific Railroad. And we also have Hero BX, which is an amazing company based out of Erie, Pennsylvania, that purchased that existing biodiesel plant several years ago and are now manufacturing biodiesel and supporting customers from all over the country.
We're visiting with Andy Sokolovich. Andy, we're going to take a break for the weather, and then we'll come back and we'll talk more again about Grow Clinton and all the amazing things that are going on in our community.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
Our 1545 weather update brought to you by Kelly Heating and Air Conditioning.
Happy Thursday. We are going to basically hit copy and paste from yesterday's weather with low humidity, plenty of sunshine through the afternoon. Highs will be around 90 degrees. But again, without the humidity, it's not going to feel too bad. Overnight tonight, we will stay clear with those lows in the mid to upper 60s. And then Friday, we still stay warm with highs in the upper 80s, but we are going to track in our next system by Friday evening. That will bring a few showers and thunderstorms that will continue into Saturday morning. This has been your Storm Track 8 weather update from meteorologist Morgan Strackbine.
Sunshine, 77 degrees. We would used to call this a Chamber of Commerce Day, but we call it a Grow Clinton Day now. Brought to you by Kelly Heating and Air Conditioning.
Everyone knows the climate changes quickly in the Midwest. Make your home comfortable all year round with Kelly Heating and Air Conditioning.
Right now, Kelly Heating and Air Conditioning offers up to $480 in rebates, plus additional incentives on a whole home comfort system from Bryant. whatever it takes.
No matter what the temperature is like outdoors, at least your home will always be comfortable when you trust Kelly.
Kelly Heating and Air Conditioning in Clinton, your Bryant factory authorized dealer.
Welcome back to FYI. Again, Andy Sokolovich of Grow Clinton visiting with us. Now, you're talking about, and I asked you what's all out there. And you were involved with business retention, and of course, you're trying to attract new business. Talk about the fine line between those two things.
Well, the reality is, Gary, that 80% of our economic growth is going to come from the expansion of existing businesses within our community. And that's what we spend a core time of our efforts every single day doing. And I mean, we look at Archer Daniels Midland, ADM, here in Clinton. In 1982, they took over from Clinton and Corn. So they celebrated 40 years of business here in Clinton with a new wet mill. And that's several $100 million investment. Several $100 million investment ADM has put in their new corn wet mill, really to make that one of the premier locations for ADM and all of their assets. Nestle Purina Pet Care, you talk about investment. They have another project coming up that's going to be another $100+ million. So they're doing some great things out there. We'll talk about Hero BX, we referenced earlier out at the Lincoln Way Industrial Rail and Air Park. They have made several $1 million of investment to their processes out there. And then, of course, Big River Packaging, who I think is one of the Cinderella stories in the Clinton region. They're doing several $1 million of investment on a 30,000+ square foot expansion. So there's a lot of things going on in Clinton. I always say this, like companies are smart, right, Gary? They don't invest in a community unless they see opportunity. So for anybody out there that's listening that says, we have nothing going on, pull your head out of the sand, right? Crawl out of that cave you're living in and look around. You're seeing cranes along the skyline of our community. That's a good thing.
Let's talk about, the advantages that Clinton does have. We certainly railroad, the airport, beautifully done now, renovated out there, and of course right along the Mississippi River. Are those your selling points, Andy?
Absolutely. Transportation infrastructure, access to a high-quality 4-lane highway system in US 30 that connects to 61 that ultimately connects to 80. Obviously, we would love to see Highway 30 4-laned all the way through to Cedar Rapids. I don't know if you've driven it recently, but they have some 4-laning going on out there closer to Cedar Rapids, just outside of, what's the community there to the far west?
To the west of it?
On the tip of my tongue, but I can't remember. Either way, we'd love to see 4-lane Highway 30 all the way to the west into Cedar Rapids, but we also have access to the Mississippi River. When you talk about the amount of traffic that river sees when it's not, it's not frozen over, it's amazing. It is a mecca. It's a transportation network like none other in the world. And we have it in our own backyard. And then obviously access to the Clinton Municipal Airport, always a huge benefit because a lot of corporate site selectors and corporate ownership fly their Lear jets right into the airport. They park, they take a rental car into their location. They love the fact that we have the Clinton Municipal Airport and right here in Clinton, Iowa.
Something that amazes me is keeping in touch with your contacts. I mean, you need to do this. How does Andy Sokolovich know when a corporate head comes into our community?
I can't tell you, Gary, or have to.
You have to kill me?
It's one of those things where you make sure you know the right people.
Okay.
And honestly, our partners in our utilities have been great assets and advocates of the development of our community because often when somebody's coming in, they're talking to somebody, whether it be through Reliant Energy, the Rural Electric Cooperative, Iowa American Water, the municipality with wastewater. The list goes on and on and on. So often we just hear from our partners saying, hey, we got a lead that so-and-so is coming in. Today I'm meeting with a company that's doing some great things in partnership with ADM, and I have not heard from them in several months, but through our utility partners, we're having a meeting and then a lunch to follow, and I'll get all the updated details, and it's a great thing.
It is a great thing. Again, Andy Sokolovich, our guest. Let's talk about existing economic development projects.
So this is the type of stuff where I can share just a little bit,
okay.
Not a ton. but we have 2 projects right now that we're working on, actually 3, that I'm very excited about. One is referred to as Project MG, and we always use code names when referring to projects because of confidentiality. Why do we do that? Is because companies don't want their shareholders or their competition to know they're looking at a new location. Project MG is a great company that's looking at the Lincoln Way Industrial Rail and Air Park. It's going to be the introduction of 60-plus new jobs to the area. We are getting very close to a land purchase agreement through Project MG. Well, they will then go and purchase the land out there at the rail park, and we can move forward with construction. Another project is Project Galaxy. This one sounds great and huge because it is. It's a 400-plus acre prospect that we've been working on in partnership with our utility partners. So I'm very excited about that. That will be several hundred jobs brought to the region. And then the next one doesn't have a project name yet, but I met with their leadership last Friday, and they came out, and we actually put boots on the ground out at the rail park, and they liked what they saw. So
it's kind of a two-way street. I know you're trying to contact people, but people sometimes reach out to you, don't they?
Absolutely. I mean, we promote our economic development assets are promoted on several different websites to include LOIS, which is a Location One Information System that is used globally to identify sites that are available throughout the Midwest and throughout the United States. And then, of course, our own website at growclinton.com. If you click on the Economic Development tab, you're introduced to what we have here locally. So we find people get a hold of us via telephone, email. Every once in a while, I get a fax still that comes in with a request. And I didn't know facsimile was still a thing, but people are using it.
Okay. Workforce development.
Yeah, workforce development is we talk about the creation of these jobs and the recruitment of new businesses and to support the existing industries with their existing workforce development needs. You ask the question, what are you doing? Well, in partnership with Eastern Iowa Community Colleges, specifically Clinton Community College, if you have not driven out by the Clinton Community College campus, you'll see there's some construction going on out there. That is going to be a premier career and technical education center where we're going to focus on the development of students, specifically K through 12, that want to investigate welding as a career, CNC. They want to learn more about manufacturing, nursing, and the list goes on and on and on. So we are excited to be able to partner with Dr. Brian Kelly and his team over there to make that happen. And that was a bond referendum that passed by over 80% throughout a 5-county region to support that career and technical education center. So something we're very excited about. The other thing is yesterday during our board of directors meeting, we had the opportunity to approve the investment and sponsorship for the Wilson Lofts. This is on the 200 block of 5th Avenue South. It's the Wilson building that's being converted to 38 apartments. On the ground floor of that apartment complex is going to be a small business incubator where any person out there with an entrepreneurial itch that wants to start a business can move into that incubator space. They can have a very low rent cost, and they can actually have somebody oversee their business growth. The goal is to get them through that business incubator and then out within 2 to 3 years to hang their shingle in a local storefront in downtown Clinton or the Lions Business Professional Association district on the north end. So we're investing $2,500, we being Grow Clinton, to ensure that that rent remains low and that we can support those small business developers and entrepreneurs.
You know, just listening to you, you have so much on your plate, Andy.
I do. Today was one of those days where I woke up and thought, I jokingly sent an email to Matt Parbs, the Sawmill Museum, and said, today's the day where I got to schedule time to breathe, just to make sure that I exist come Friday, because there's a lot going on. But we at Grow Clinton know that in order to move our communities forward that we represent, it's going to take a tremendous amount of effort, and it's going to take a lot of all hands on deck.
One of your talking points was junior achievement.
I love junior achievement, Gary. It is, if you've not heard junior achievement, just simply Google it. For anybody that's out there that says this generation lacks the soft skills, you know what I mean by soft skills, show up to work on time, show respect, dress appropriately. Junior Achievement is a great organization that teaches young individuals all of those concepts of life that sometimes at that age we just forget, right? I mean, it's not no fault of their own. You're in your own little bubble when you're in high school. You're wearing sweatpants and a hoodie. You're going there. You're learning what you need to learn. You're taking your test. You're passing the grade. You're working towards graduation. But then you get out And I always tell high schoolers when I speak to them, I said, who's in charge of your success after graduation? And a lot of them sit there and scratch their head and like, well, I guess we are. I said, true. That's your reality. You are in charge of your success after graduation. Mom and dad are gone. They're doing their own thing. They've already converted your room into a hot tub room, right? You are gone, out of sight, out of mind. You are in charge of your success. Junior Achievement is a great organization, and we've elected to donate $7,500 to their cause so they can help support the education of over several hundred students here in the greater Clinton region and help them learn and develop those soft skills.
All right, outstanding. Again, I appreciate you coming in so much, and Grow Clinton, certainly something new, but not new to the community, but something definitely is going to help us.
Absolutely. We are here to help. If you need to reach out to us, just go to growclinton.com or 242-5702, 242-5702.
Okay, we'll try and catch up with you maybe every month or so and just see how things are going.
You know where to find me.
All right, appreciate it. Andy, thanks so much.
Thank you.